Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. So that was a great chat with Coach Louie and Dan Badanis about what they think about the NHL season. I wanted to reach out to a guy that I think has got a really compelling story, and a story that we're going to hear more of in the future. I want to introduce you to Kevin Porter. He is relentless. He's actually got a special about him called Relentless. He's a real life example of a hero. He's a firefighter. He's a paramedic. And at the age of 46, what does he want to do? He wants to play in the NHL. And I think that he's got a story about his persistence and his resilience and his training and what he is doing to try to play in the NHL. So, Kevin, we're going to talk about you and Relentless and your pursuit of the NHL career another time. But right now, we're just talking about the start of the NHL season. What do you think it takes to win the Stanley Cup in the NHL this year?
Well, this year, I mean, if you look at the last 2 years with COVID, in kind of the wrench that it threw in everyone's livelihood and training and protocols and everything else. And I understand we're still coming out of that to some degree, some varying degrees. So I think, obviously team cohesiveness is a massive part of it, both on and off the ice. And I think the team that does that the best, and, even when you have little bumps in the road, we all have them in my journey, I'm sure in your journey, and in everyone's journey in life, and figuring out how to fix those quickly, adapt, overcome, and, basically adapt, evolve, and overcome.
Adapt, evolve, and overcome.
Yeah.
It's good rules for a lot more than just hockey.
Well, it is, absolutely. And it's kind of a life lesson. I mean, it's funny you're asking me about this, because I was actually just looking at the standings today, and what I aspire to do, I mean, as far as hockey, is just to play at the highest level that I'm able to. And if that's East Coast, great. If it's anything above and beyond that, that would be fantastic. But, I try to look at it. I mean, it's a process, right? And the process is ongoing, with your off ice, with video, with everything these teams do, and the amount of money that they put into it, and the effort. I mean, I train at the Ford Performance Center in Etobicoke in Toronto, and I know that the pros, and I know the staff, like everyone's there so early in the morning, they leave so late in the day at sometimes. And I mean, it's a massive process for everybody. And I think, everyone's got to be on the same page, obviously. I mean, it's so cliche to say, but if you look at the 94 Rangers, and I like to use them as an example, and just their moniker of heave ho, right? Mark Messier, he's personally my hockey hero. And, he's just the way they all got together, the way he led that team. But it isn't enough nowadays just to have one leader. You have to have multiple leaders. I think everyone has to be a leader. You can't just, rely on one person, because they're just people, right? Like one guy or one girl on a team, whatever the case may be, it's just one person. So, I think what's going to set the best team apart this year is going to be the team that heave hose, like the 94 Rangers.
Okay, so let me probe you on that. Some people say the Leafs have got individually great talent, but they don't have that cohesiveness, and they don't have that leader. What do you think?
Well, I think they do, and it's just, I don't want to comment too much on any one particular team, but I just think, what we see, or people see, the armchair people, and what actually goes on are two completely different things at times. I know we live in a hockey hotbed in Toronto. Guys feel the pressure, they feel the heat, but you know what? They feel that in a lot of other markets. They feel it, like when I was in Sweden playing, they feel it in the European markets, and they feel it even in the small little towns, right? When you're expected to be good because you kids have been playing together for 15 years. So I think hockey can be a bit of a pressure cooker, all professional sports. So the way I look at it is it's just like we'll go back to the adapt, overcome, and evolve thing. And it's just, everyone's got to dig in and do their part. There's a certain onus on some guys to maybe step up when you're looking at paychecks, but that could be for any team in the league, any team in professional sports, right? We tend to hone in always on, the top few players on a given team, and then expect the world from them. Well, if I'm the coach, I expect as much from the fourth line left winger as you do from the first line center, right? And I think that's probably we'll come back again when you're talking about how you want to win a championship. That's the way it has to be. And it's got to be that way on the ice. It's got to be that way at practice. It's got to be that way in the video room. Like, I don't care what you're doing. And it's got to be, especially in the off season, how much work the guys put in the off season. Are they actually ready for the rigors of the season? So, when it's all said and done, I think that's part of the magic ingredient.
I once talked to a president of an NHL hockey team who said, Brian, let me put it this way. Think about a football team, no matter how good all the individual players are. If you don't have a star quarterback playing at the top of his game, you got no chance of winning the Super Bowl. And he said, hockey's the same, but the equivalent is the goalie. You've got to have a star goalie, but that star goalie's got to be also playing at the top of his game. Do you agree?
Well, I do. Absolutely. Like I said, it's like hockey is just not one man or one female or whatever the case may be, one person. And if
no, but like football, no passes are going to get thrown. No handoffs are going to be given if you don't have that quarterback. So yes, you need every other player, but you really need the quarterback. And his point was every other player is important, but you really need that goalie.
And goaltending is a massive part of it. And I think there's a lot of pressure on these young kids and guys and girls everywhere that play goal. But you're also, who are you playing in front of, right? Everyone's got responsibility. It's a team game, right? You have certain objectives throughout the game, the defensemen, wingers, forwards, and you have to be just as intense on the forecheck as you do with your penalty killing, with your back checking, with your defensive game. Right. So if your poor goaltender, he could be the number one or she could be the number one goaltender in the world. But if they're getting 50, 60 shots a game, right. Guys and girls know how to shoot the puck now. So you know what? A goalie can only do so much. And if you're not clearing, second and third, you've got the primary shot, you've got a secondary and a tertiary shot. If defensemen and forwards aren't clearing those secondary and tertiary shots, it's hard to blame a goalie for giving up a goal on the third shot.
It's interesting because I had a conversation with another person who was a statistician, and he said, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like every single goalie in the NHL has between a 93 and a 97% save ratio. So they're all pretty damn good, and they're going to save 93 or 97% of all of the shots that are made on them. And if you try to regress that in a statistical analysis with one defenseman or one player, it's not going to work. But if you regress it against a team in front that plays good defensive hockey and limits the number of shots, particularly the shots that are potential winning shots, that ends up being a predictor. And so therefore, his argument was it was the combination of a good goalie, but not just one defenseman, but the team in front of him that could limit danger shots. What do you think?
100%. You know what? I think you have to enjoy, and I really enjoy doing this. You have to actually enjoy and defensively disrupting plays. You have to enjoy almost, I'll say, get off on it, disrupting the other team's pattern and play. And that's where speed has come in today's game, Brian. If you watch a game even from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, compared to the speed of today's game, it's night and day. And the transition game is so important now with good back checking and pressure. I mean, it turns into an offensive opportunity. I mean, I don't know how many 2-on-1s there are now in hockey, 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s every game. It's crazy. The more pressure you can apply, and you're tactful about your back checking and not getting caught out of position up the ice. Guys are super fast now. And, if you're caught out of position, you're not gonna be able to catch up. But, if you've got guys with legs, it's not that much of an issue.
The other thing that's interesting is it's super fast and it's a sprint constantly. Compare it to, basketball or soccer when you're on for 30, 60 minutes. How long is the typical shift for a hockey player?
Well, you're looking, anywhere between 30 to 45 seconds. And I would think if it's any longer than that and you're not producing, you're going to hear it on the bench. So I would like to think, 35 to 45, 50 seconds. Having said that, there are instances where, pardon me, if you, depending on what side of the rink, the bench you're in, which period, you could easily get caught in a defensive zone trap on a penalty kill. You might be on a power play in the other end where, you're out there for, 45 seconds to a minute and a half. I watched a game the other week. The guy that I think it was a defenseman from Ottawa, he was out there for over 2 minutes. He used to play for the Leafs, Russian guy. He was out there for over 2 minutes. Well, your off-season conditioning, it better be reflective of that, being able to, you're going to get stuck in 2 minutes once in a while. So that's
got to be like unbelievably different, being on a shift for 30 to 45 seconds versus being on a basketball court for 20 minutes or a soccer field for 30 minutes.
Absolutely. Well, if you look, I don't know if you play basketball or hockey, but when you look at hockey, is basically an anaerobic sport with periods of aerobic work, right? So your energy systems have to be reflective of that, and how you train the off season and preseason and even in season are going to be reflective of how you perform. And you have to be able to dig. And, once in a while, you might get caught out there for 2 minutes. And as well as I do, when your body becomes fatigued, the mind becomes fatigued, you make, bad plays, and then they often result in the other team capitalizing.
We're having an interesting conversation tonight with Kevin Porter. He's a real life example, I think, of a hero. He's a firefighter. He's a paramedic. And now he's got another dream. He wants to play in the NHL at 46 years old. Unheard of. But if who's that quarterback with Tampa Bay? What's his name?
Well, that Tom Brady guy.
If Tom Brady can do it at 42 or 43, you can do it at 46. I'm sure of it. I look forward to hearing your whole story in the future. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Brian. Take care.
Well, that's our show for tonight. I'm Brian Crombie in the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. You can get me every night, 6 o'clock on 960 AM, or you can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. Thanks very much, everybody. Good night.